My name is TJ Scott. This is my Managing Human Resources Chapter 13 video summary. Chapter 13 was on developing employee relations, anywhere from rewards to punishment to even what's the line on specific communication between employee and employer. Chapter 13 kind of ties everything together. We've talked about a multitude of different things. It's simple stuff like communication efforts, reward, punishment, things like that. Developing employee relations, so developing everything that we've discussed so far and kind of tying it in all together. Um, Chapter 13 does just that. It approaches pretty much everything when it comes to your relationship with your employer or your relationship with your employee. Um, Ties everything together, and it also establishes some guidelines, some rules saying this is where the line is, and it's a fine line. Obviously, don't cross it. So, jumping right into the chapter itself, from a manager's perspective, strong employee relations leads to a highly motivated employees, keeping them informed on policy strategies, and also listening to specific things like how they feel, whether that be about punishments, about rewards, or even about different employees and about different employers themselves. Um, Employee relationships, employee relations representative, having the ability to um, mix within different employees, but also having that communication effort between whether it be human resources department, managers, and employees, having the ability to communicate among each other. And communication was a huge part of this chapter. Um, Not just being able to communicate with those people, but also where is the line on guidance. The homework touches on that a little bit. Um, you know, there is a fine line in the workplace when it comes to getting in trouble or doing things wrong or even doing things a bad way. This chapter does a great job of not only saying that this way is right or this way is wrong, but also defining the lines among the communication efforts between employee, employer, or even representatives in this case. So, developing employee communications, um, you have to have the ability and the opportunity to express ideas, facts, feelings, whether that be about another employee or whether it be about employers, but maybe human resources. Good companies operate effectively because they have those communication routes among the office or among the corporation to say, hey, I think I have an idea. Let's take this idea to the top and let's see, what we can spin off of it. Communication flows. You need to communicate with different employees at your same level. You need to communicate with the top people. You need to communicate with human resources, and you need to communicate with the people in the warehouse. The communication effort cannot stop anywhere. Everything has to be surfaced throughout the company in order for everything to be managed effectively. It touches a little bit on the communication process. Essentially, why it's touching on the chapter is because there are mix-ups, there are issues um, when the communication effort is not clear and it's not defined. Um, when you're making a change or when you need to, I guess, circulate a message across the office or even a message across an entire corporation, you need to make sure that it's clear cut and everybody can understand it. Using feedback, discuss this within the past few chapters, how important feedback is, whether it be negative or positive, but making sure that you have that added twist for or negative communication of being able to relay it to employees in a way that's respectable and also a way that keeps that effective and productive work going. Um, the encouragement of effective communication, making sure that people know how important communication is, essentially what that means. Making sure that people know that everything has to be clear cut, as I just mentioned, and making sure people know that communication is going to be an effective tool for the company, corporation, organization, institution, whatever it may be, to run effectively. The chapter touches on email a little bit. Be smart with emails. When it comes to working, obviously you're going to be relaying messages, not just about work, but about your personal life, things like that. As an employer, you need to be aware that these things are happening. You need to be aware of any lines that are crossed as an employee. Be smart about things. Um, know that you're there to do a job, obviously. And when it comes to communication efforts, it should be work based, but don't be afraid to get to know people. And I think that's part of this chapter too. Um, a lot of this has to do with trust. You don't want to trust your employer, employee, and then it leads to something like you're not productive within the workplace, or you're having issues among different employees. It creates a hostile work environment or an unhealthy work environment. Um, Obviously, productivity is the most important thing when you're managing something, but making people happy, keeping people happy is also very important, and that's part of the communication effort when it comes to employee relationships. Thank you.